You had the ability to speak to both presidents in the debate and ask them your questions, like the commentaries. Commentaries said, what would you say and why? Comment down below, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Now, we're going to get a little political today because I believe that everybody should have the right to say what they have to say respectfully and learn to respect everybody else's decision. Now, I had a little disagreement yesterday with my husband, but I didn't argue and I didn't say anything, and he was shocked of how I said it. I told him something that I've been practicing is I kept my mouth shut and listened to every word that he had to say. I let him vent out. And this is how it started. It's because I said I was voting for the Green Party and I was voting for Jill Stein. And he was like, why are you going to throw your vote away? And he was expressing his anger. And I understood what he meant. And I understood where he came from. And I totally respected every single word that he said. And I understood what he came from. I understand that he was coming from a loving, good point of view, that he wants to see this country progress. This is his country. This is where he was born. This is where he lives, and California is one of the states where we're drowning. And nowadays, it's like LGBTQ plus community is winning. You can't sit here and say anything without offending anybody, and it's like, okay, so how are you? So this is why this political agenda is important, because we're living in the time of days that it's going backwards, and the Bible tells us all the times that everything in the Bible, that it's going to come to an end, that everything's going backwards. Now, I'm not saying that the end is coming today or the end is coming, because nobody knows when the end is coming. I'm just saying that the Bible does say that when the times of the ends are near, everything's going to go crazy, erotical, and retardedly. And so when I was watching the debate last night, and I didn't watch it all, I just watched bits and pieces, because what I really wanted to do was watch it today, rewind it, play it, watch it, and be able to be like, why did they ask that question? And what did they mean by that? And so I sat there and watched everything they said, and I was just embarrassed by watching Joe Biden and Mr. Trump speak. I was like flustered because he has no communication skills. His wife, probably Joe Biden's wife, probably would have done a better job of debating Donald Trump than he would. And I don't mean that like in a jokey manner. I mean that in literally, that was embarrassing. And a lot of people were embarrassed with what had happened, and a lot of people were saying that he needed to step down and he needed to think about this long and hard and just step down. And don't just take my word. I'm gonna play some videos of what at the end of what my page was floored with, hundreds of videos, and I'm gonna show you guys all these videos. I don't own the rights to none of these videos, but at the end I want to show you guys all these videos of all these commentary people that are in this political world. That's what they had to say about this debate. Not only did it, I felt like it was the worst debate ever, because I don't think Donald Trump did a bad job, and I don't think he did a good job. I think he should have just railed it and nailed it to him, and I don't think he did it either, because I don't know if it was him being sensitive to the fact that he was just losing and he couldn't even speak, and he didn't even understand what Joe Biden was saying, and he joked around and said, I don't even think he realizes and understands what he even said himself. And I was just sitting there laughing, going, true. But this is a debate. You want to be able to prove to the American people why you want to be president. You should have stuck it to him. And I don't feel like he stuck it to him. I don't feel like he gave it, like he did a really great job, but I don't feel like he nailed it. I feel like they both lacked a lot of things. And I felt like some of the questions that they asked were more about he said this and she said this, and Iran and the inflation and immigration and like stuff like that. And then when they talked, something that really struck me was about human sex trafficking. Well, hello, did you guys know that the United States is the #1 consumer of that type of stuff? And it's like they're blaming other countries because he's like, oh, he's saying that, we come in and we let it happen. Well, duh, because we're the number one consumers. We consume that stuff. Like, if you guys haven't seen it, we do can make the majority of that consumption of human trafficking. We consume it. We are the number one buyers of that. We are the number one buyers in human trafficking and children trafficking. Why? Because it's a disgusting trade that is selling and it's booming by the hour. And nobody took ownership of that answer, in my opinion, of why. Like, they just say, oh, and I get it. Yeah, it is other countries that we're allowed to bring in, but why? It's like nobody took ownership. It's not about just closing the borders because it's already here, because we even do it in our own country. Like, sex trafficking is even in our own country already. Like, even Americans do it to Americans. Like, I've heard stories of girls talking about how they were sex trafficked by their own parents because that's how sick and perverted their parents were, and they wanted to make money, so they would sell their own children, and these were American children. Now, besides the point, it's like I felt like they didn't give out very good tips about how they would improve the economy or how they would make inflation go down, because all they talked about was how inflation is up, but they didn't talk about how they should bring it down. Because now every day you go to, they talked about the grocery store problem, how back then it was $100, now it's more than $100, it's like $120. I was like, no, it's triple that. You go to the grocery stores back then, you were able to spend $100 for a family of 2 or 3, and now it's like you gotta spend $200, $300 just to be able to buy groceries alone. Like, if I were to buy 2 little items, literally, it would be like 20 to 30 bucks just for 2 things. That's how much inflation has gone up, and I don't feel like neither of them answered it correctly, in my opinion, to how they were going to fix that issue, because I feel like that's an issue they need to fix. Because, okay, you're inflating, all this money is going up. Where is it going? Who's spending all that money? Where is that money going? And where is it leading into? Like, how are we getting there? You know, and that's my whole purpose of this whole reasoning why I was like, I can't watch it with people, because if I view my mindset in this set, and that's why I think it's important that we all have to learn to respect people's opinion. We all have to learn to respect how other people think, how other people view things, because sometimes it's like my grandpa used to tell me, just tell people, you said what you said, I heard you loud and clear. You said what you said. I don't agree with it. That's fine. It's over. It's done. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to fight about it. It's just done. You said what you said. Move on. That's something my grandpa used to tell me all the time. Like, I heard you. And that's how you would know that he was, like, meaning serious, and that he taught me that. He said, that's how you know you're being respectful. That's how you know that you understand that you may not agree with their agenda, but that doesn't mean that you have to bash them and be disrespectful and change who you are as a human just to be able to try to win a battle over something that you may be even wrong and you don't even realize it, because you're too stuck in this topic that you think you're right. Not everybody is correct, and not everybody is correct. And I was like, you gotta learn to respect other people's beliefs and agendas. Just because you believe in one way doesn't mean that it's right, or doesn't mean that it's wrong. It's just the way you believe, and you gotta learn to respect it. And I was like, that's the truth. That's true. And that's what I think democracy should be about. It should be about learning to respect people. And it's always, and I always tell, and it's like I told my son before I end this, it's all about the agenda of the Democratic Party versus the Republican. It's no longer allowing other parties to join. It's now is who has millions of dollars, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. It's no longer about, if you don't have the power in the political status like Democrats and Republican, you're not going to get any say so. Your face is not going to be seen. You're not going to get any time. You literally have to rely on social network, and they're going to take that away. they did that to Bernie Sanders.
Watching this, Republicans were watching this, independents who haven't decided, and then Democrats and Democratic lawmakers. What are officials who hold office in the Democratic Party saying tonight about President Biden's performance?
There are at least some House Democrats who were gathered tonight watching this together, talking to the White House about having him step down. That's how bad it was in their view. Remember, House Democrats are on the verge of trying to get back the majority. They're nervous about doing that in places in these battleground states where they're going to need a strong top of the ticket. They may need to rely on a strong Senate or gubernatorial candidate, and in some cases they don't have it.
Step down before the convention?
Well, to at least throw up somebody else instead of the president that debated tonight.
I just want to be clear about this reporting because, you know, there are more than 200 House Democrats.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So are these, when you say a group, are these 3 House Democrats who may be progressive and are angry with Biden about the war in Israel? Are they leadership? Because there's a lot of Democrats, just like there are a lot of Republicans. There are 435 members of the House.
House Democrats, some in safe districts, others not. And as one of these House Democrats
so low. The bar has gotten so low that my hope is that for all you guys at home who are watching this, you saw a guy who's a sick man and you saw a guy who's arguably a bad man on the stage at the same time. And I really hope the conclusion is a resounding, we have to do better than this. These 2 men are an embarrassment to the United States of America. That debate was an embarrassment. I actually felt bad for the moderators. I don't even know what there was to follow up on. They weren't making any sense. Trump, too. When he's not making things up, he's making things worse. He didn't say a single positive thing about the United States of America except that he's great the whole night. And Biden is clearly past it.
Is the first presidential debate of the 2024 election cycle at a very unusual time with very unusual format. And I think with probably strange results. I mean, we'll see the response from both sides. But if you're the Biden campaign, I think you wish that this night will be remembered in reverse as the president became sort of stronger, including literally his voice, the strength of his voice over the course of the night, probably peaking towards the very, very end of the debate. For the Trump campaign, I think it's fair to say it was the inverse. President Trump, just in terms of his coherence and finishing a sentence and seeming to be in control of his own emotions, started off as strong as he was. The strongest point for him was at the very beginning of the debate. And then over the course of the night, he became less coherent and more visibly flustered. I don't think either of these campaigns, either of these candidates is going to feel like this was a shining moment for them. But I think that first initial impression, Nicole, of President Biden walking out and his voice being very hard to hear. It's hard to tell what he was saying because his voice was so weak. And his halting delivery in his first couple of answers has got to have put a shock into the campaign, at least at the start before he.
Really hard to watch. And it kind of pains me to say this today, but I think President Biden needs to step down and be replaced.
You do.
If we want to defeat Donald Trump in November, I absolutely think that. And I think Biden's team saw it coming. I think that's why they pushed for an earlier debate. So they'd have time to change course if needed, but they've got to act fast. And I would implore those closest with the president to have the very hard conversations they're going to need to have, and not just for political ramifications, for humanity, for his integrity, and for his legacy, which, I mean, that's all on the line right now. And Democrats need to stop spinning the age problem. We have sat here, and Alyssa has repeatedly brought up that a lot of people are concerned with his age. And over, Democrats have twisted themselves into a pretzel to say, don't believe your lying eyes, it's not true. And even at this table, we've said, look, Joy's 81. Joy Behar at 81.
Must we keep repeating that?
Sorry. Joy Behar at 81
but I am.
Is not Joe Biden at 81.
No.
And that was on full display last night. But let me be clear. If November comes and President Biden and President Trump are on the ticket, I will 100% be voting for President Biden because the alternative is too scary for me. But I fear that many people in this country do not feel the same way.